Well, hey there, and welcome to the Homa Academy. We are back this week with part two and our special guest, Anul. If you didn't see last week's, be sure to check that out, where he went through a ton of tips and tricks about using ChatGPT and Unity. We brought him back for the second round of this week, so I'm just going to put him on now. Anul, welcome back, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm thrilled you're back. Last week was super interesting and fascinating for me. Loads of golden nuggets in there. Um, I know we did you a bio. We did you a bio. I know you introduced yourself last week properly, but for people who didn't watch that, we will have a link in the description for last week's. But do you want to just remind people who you are and exactly what you've got going on right now?
Sure. So I'm an indie game developer. I have been making games for the past 5 years now, and I have worked as a game designer, game developer, as a game producer, and recently I've been using a lot of Gen AI tools like ChatGPT, DALI, and Midjourney to make games. These tools are really helpful and beneficial to boost your game development. And in today's episode, I will be sharing some tips and how we can use these tools to implement things in Unity.
Perfect. Nice. I'm looking forward to this one. So I think without further delay, you've got a ton of stuff to show us. So I'm gonna flick over to you and I'll be watching along and we'll come back after each little section today and have a little chat about each one. Sound cool?
Sounds great, Kevin. Let's do it.
Let's do it then.
All right. So to begin with, in the last episode, we left off at generating assets for the game, in-game assets, and today let's pick it up where we left off. So this is Game Artist GPT, a custom GPT I developed using ChatGPT. To access this, you would require GPT-4, and you can just click on the link in the description below and access it. So in the previous episode, we were trying to create a game based on a thief and a robber. So we needed some assets like a thief and a robber. So let's ask the chat to create these assets for us. Okay, let's create some assets for my game. Obviously, since it generates an image for you, it can only do 2D assets for you, not 3D. And in my custom GPT, you can have a conversation, you can talk to it, it will ask you some questions like what kind of a character do you need, what kind of background, does it require any props, are there any UI elements. So let's just go with character. We need a robber. Environment background, let's take like a clean white background so we can clean it up in Photoshop and extract it into Unity. Item prop, a robber. I think a robber should really have a baseball bat just to defend himself. We don't really need any UI elements, so none for now, and that's it. And then it's going to ask you some more questions, just to get a good idea of what you have in mind. So what kind of a style do we need? I think let's go with the cartoony style. Cartoony style. Let's do a female robber. The specific pose, I think it would be cool to have like a running pose because he's a robber and they're always running from the cops. For clothing, we could really go with the. Let's try something different. Let's try like a Joker clown outfit. Yeah, I think we can define it as much as we want to with the baseball bat and everything, but it's fine. Okay, so we have two options now. ChatGPT does this. It sometimes provides you options. Which one do you prefer? So it can train your chat better. Once we do, I think they both look quite similar. Let's just choose one. It doesn't matter. Okay. So do you have any specific colors in mind? Okay, let's just ask it to create with the details we have, and you can assume rest of the details. So the key here is to define different parameters, like what kind of a style you need, the robber's details, what kind of a pose, the outfits, any special elements. The more you define, the more specific you are with the details, the better the output can be. Okay, now this is a good reference, but what we need is a 2D character, because 2D characters, they really stand out, and if we take this into Unity, it won't look good. So let's do a 2D character that is facing sideways, cartoony style. So it did provide us with a clean background. If we just take this into Photoshop, we can clean it up, but it won't look nice because it's 3D and not 2D. All right, so this is better than what we have. Let's do flat 2D. This is still 3D. Fix it, please. We can also send it some reference images if we want to, so we can quickly Google some images. Okay, so this is like a nice robot that we have now, like a flat robber in a very clowny outfit. It has a baseball bat. Can we do a running pose? Let's see if it can provide us with a running pose. But in the meanwhile, let's take this image, let's save it. Let's go to Photoshop. Let's drag it out here. And what we can do is we can clean the background, since we asked for a white background. We just do this. So we clean the background, and what we have now is a character that we can easily import into Unity. So we export it as a PNG into Unity, and I already have Unity set up with a basic scene. Okay, let's take it here, drag it out here. But you see some parts are still not cleaned up. So okay, take this. You can always spend more time to really clean out the pixels, but I'll just show you how it can be done in a rough fashion. So let's go. And you can just drag it onto this scene, and what we have here is a nice and flat 2D image that we can use as an asset in our game. So there you go. So clean asset. You can chop it up in Illustrator, Photoshop. You can animate it, cut out the parts. But this is really cool for games that have static assets, that have that require some cute characters, cute icons, cute interactions between different characters. If it's a simple kids game, you can have uh, so much content for your game with ChatGPT. So let's go back to ChatGPT, and we requested for a running pose, and here we have a character in a running pose. So it's really nice, really sweet, very cartoony. You could go for a realistic art style, but there's like so many options we can explore. So Kevin, what kind of characters do you think you could generate with this if you wanted to, think of some good theme for a
That's
game?
a great question. Thanks for doing that one. I think most of all, it was interesting again the way you were talking to it, and I like the fact that it specified it talks you through what you got to do, which I think is really handy, especially for
Yeah.
using it for the first time. I'd never actually seen the options come up like that. Is that something specific to your one that you're using? Because I've never seen it happen before.
Yeah, this is specific to the GPT that I created
Yeah.
because I wanted to reduce the thinking on the user's part. So it asks you questions and you already have like a option list you can choose from. So character design, you just have to define that. In most
Very
of the cases,
nice.
users yeah, in most of the cases, users have to define the different elements and they might forget some things to define to generate an image properly. But here it asks you everything that you need to enter.
Yeah, cool. I mean, must say as well that the links to the Anul's GPTs are down below if you want to go and grab hold of them. Um, what do I think we could use? That is a good question. And again, I think it's horses for courses in a way here. It's only useful if you have a specific case for it. And you put me on the hop there because I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but I can see the power of this, of course. Maybe certainly
Yeah.
in-game prompts and stuff like that, where a 2D image would be, you know, pretty useful. And again, it based on the game you were making last time, it was a perfect fit, which is slightly weird because there's no reference to that on this second part. But people I know, I'm sure who've watched the first one will, it was a perfect fit for that. The 3D version was really cool. It reminded me of the Suicide Squad woman. I can't remember her name now. It's very
Yeah.
similar to that. The quality of the images is fantastic, and it just goes to show how quick you did that for generating assets. Now, there's a lot of tools out there. A few come to mind where if you find an image, you could then go and feed that into potentially another AI tool where you can retain style to keep the the style consistent throughout. Because I noticed once you did that the second one, which was the flat one
Hmm.
that was a very different style. And then when you asked it, can you have it running? It was like a really different image. So is that something that you would recommend? Like there are various tools out there, stuff like layer.ai to get consistency throughout the assets, or have you got another method for something like that?
No, there are tools like that, and they're pretty useful. But you have to train the styles. You have to upload a lot of reference images. It is good for developers and artists who want to really get the styles on point. We could generate a similar style with this image. It's gonna take some back and forth, but those tools that are building up on the AI technology for all these artists, it's really amazing what they're doing. Getting such consistency, and I think in the long run, there will be a lot more useful AI tools. So it's worth exploring those tools. I still have to explore some of them. I have tried Layer AI. It is a useful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we lost you a little bit there. I think the internet is being a bit of a fiend against us today. But yeah, I think even if it's just for placeholder stuff for now as well, I think that's really beneficial to get. You can see where it's going with it. Um, and
Yeah.
like I said, it's a little bit of a strange one because it would have fit exactly what we were doing last time. But overall, that's really cool, and I really like the idea that you built in the prompts and the choices there. I think that's super helpful. Um, and like I said, the quality is really smart. Have you got anything else you want to add to this part, or can we move on to a different scenario?
So we can move on to a different scenario. Next, I would like to show how we can generate logos and cover images for games, because you can to market a game, you need the assets like logos and cover images. You to distribute it on Play Store, App Store, or even on web portals, you need these images. And let's start by creating a new chat with Game Artist GPT again. Okay, so let's begin to create some logos and marketing images for our game. We can use the same game idea where there thieves versus robbers, where sorry, thieves versus cops, where cops are catching some thieves, they're trying to escape. So hey, let's create a game logo and cover image idea. Just define the idea in a rough fashion. There is a cop, there is a robber, 2D game. Robber is escaping from the cop. Okay, we just put in some basic details. We don't need to specify every detail right in the beginning. So then the chat will ask us, okay, what kind of style you're looking for? Is it classic and bold, cartoon and funny? Let's try something else. Let's see more options for the styles. Let's go with mysterious. Okay. Let's keep a very dark theme for the idea. So like a thriller kind of a game, not very cartoony, not funny, because in the previous section I showed you how to do something fun and cartoony. And it asks us if we want any text in the logo. Sure, let's have text. Why not? Um, uh, cops. What can be the name of the game? Chasing cops or chasing robbers. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, yeah. What a perfect title. Silhouettes of images. Okay. Do we need handcuffs? Do we need a police badge? What do we need? Let's go with loot bags and masks. Okay. So do we want to add anything else? Not really. I'll just mention we need a 2D design, flat, thriller, gameplay. Yeah. So it is asking us the details for the cover image, but let's ask it to first generate the logo. And okay, it is generating the logo. So for the cover image, it is asking us overall scene or setting, because cover images are different from logos. They're more like a promo poster for the game. So we can have some cool stuff like a city chasing scene, like a hideout scene. Ah, okay. We have a logo here. It looks interesting. Kevin, what do you think of this logo that we generated?
I think it looks pretty dark. It's very cool, isn't it? I was thinking as well. could you do multiple? I know it lists out the numbers there, and you choose the numbers. Can you do multiple? Can you do like? Can I have 1, 3, and 5 on that?
We could do that before, but I think ChatGPT restricted it to just generating one image. A lot of
Okay.
people
Yeah, it's
doing
just me. I
so, but I
always
think
try and go one step further. We got a little bit of lag on the internet, so no worries. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool indeed. It certainly looks dark, doesn't it? I think it certainly achieved the mood there. One really
yeah,
good use case for this is obviously the splash screens or loading screens as well. I think that's a really good use case for this. In terms of sizing, what sort of sizing would we get out of this? Can we specify size, or what's the default it would do?
we can specify the sizes, but it is more a matter of resolution. So we can do portrait, landscape, or square. We can't go pixel perfect canvas sizes for this.
Okay,
So what I usually do is I generate the cover images, take it in Photoshop, modify some parts based on my canvas size.
nice, very cool.
Yeah.
So, what
So
do you think of this
also
one?
also the I really like how it is also generating the text and it fits the vibe of the image. So because if you were to do it manually, you would have to set the text and uh, blend the parts of the text so it fits the whole vibe of the image, but it already does that for us.
Yeah, and choosing a
So we'll
font for your logo and stuff is a total nightmare, isn't it? So it looks really
yeah,
bespoke, which I think is really smart.
yeah, exactly. So let's just generate a quick cover image and see how that goes with the cover image. Let's do a city chase scene. Assume rest of the details by yourself. So it's quick. It will just assume everything that it wants to.
So, are you expecting it to keep the text here and stuff?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. or okay. All right. So it did generate an image, but this is not exactly what we are looking for. The text is cut off, and we can't really see the cops or the robbers. So let's ask it to modify that. And cover images are usually landscape, so let's ask it to also generate a landscape image. Some feedback. Need a landscape image. Text is cut off. Cannot see the cop or robber standing out. Can do a nice dewy scene to make the characters stand out. And of course, if you've got even the basics of image editing skills, you could do some elements, individually and piece that together, which is, a huge amount of work saved. Just whatever works
Yeah,
within your flow and your skill set, I guess. But yeah, it's very smart, isn't it?
exactly. So you can extract some elements.
There we go.
Like, okay, this is a very nice cover. Yeah,
Done.
yeah, yeah. Done. Ready to upload. You can just uh, put it online, and you get like millions of downloads, and
Of
you
course.
have made a success.
No, that's really nice though. That works really well. Now the font has obviously changed, and I'm being super critical at this point because I'm answering some questions that people might be saying. But yeah, you could literally like that's how I would imagine I would use it. I'd get that if I really like that font from the logo we did at the start. You could then
Yeah,
easily just isolate that and put that on top there, and again
yeah,
use it as an accelerator. But that is a really nice image. That it's really quite striking. I'm super impressed with that. It
yeah,
looks like the cop is running away from the robber, which is kind of a curious take. But I'm kind of liking that twist in the gameplay there. I think that's a unique take.
Yeah, maybe the cops are the robbers are chasing the cops, so it's a twist. Who knows? But with some appropriate feedback, you can fix all of this. But this is just to showcase the detailing and how you can generate some good graphics and visuals for the game. So all good to go there. Uh, yeah, so let's move on, Kevin, to what I want to show next. That is a
Yeah,
level editor.
yeah. Before I do that, I just want to go back to that because I think I'm really pleased the way that ended up on that one, and I think, like I said, splash or loading screens is a really great use. You don't just need to do a black screen, with a with how should we say it, like a boring old screen. You can easily within a few minutes really add some character and some production value to the game just by doing that. And again, it would work really nice for some of the feature images, certainly on the Play Store,
Yeah,
and things like that. That was really nice. I thought that was really quite impressive, actually. I really enjoyed that style, and I think, again, I love the fact the way you walk through the I can't. English is so hard today. It asks you for it reminds you of what you can do with it. I think is what I'm trying to say. It's like
yeah.
it really does, like it pokes you to go one way or another and gives you enough information to of something you might not have considered, which I think is really good. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really really smart. Chasing robbers, I like it.
Yeah,
So should we
yeah.
move on
The
to
purpose is that
the next part?
let's move on to the next part, where I would like to showcase how we can create a level editor script in Unity. Let's get to it. We have a simple platform here, hexagon platform, but what I also have is a lot more hexagon platforms. So we have a castle. You can see it right here. We have some dogs. We have some farms. We have archery. We have like a small kingdom, castle, kingdom kind of a wheel. Let's bring them all out into the scene. The idea is to create a script that turns these single assets into a whole grid and spawns them inside of the level. And you can control the variables to decide how you want to spawn the environment. All right, so okay, now we have around 5 or 6 different tiles. Let's go to the scene view in Unity. Here they are all set up. Okay, okay. All right. So now let's go to ChatGPT and define what we want. We want a script that runs in the edit mode and that can manage these hexagon tiles and that can spawn them according to how we want to spawn them. So here I want to create a level editor script in Unity to create a hexagon grid based on some objects that I have, such as a simple tile, a castle tile, and 3 other tiles. I should be able to edit the grid in Unity in edit mode. I should be able to decide the length and width and the spawn rate of every tile. So level editor is really specific from game to game. For a match 3 game, it can be how many different elements you want to spawn and the difficulty you want to set up as the player progresses, how you want to set up the environment can be the goal in a 3D game. In an open world game, it could be more about spawning some random elements and filling up the empty space, decorating the empty areas so it doesn't look so empty. So it is a very gameplay specific objective to create a level editor script. But for this video, we'll just create a 3D grid using the hexagon tiles and spawn a small little town that the developer can manipulate using some variables. All right, so we have a script here called hex grid. So this will manage our grid again. And we have a hex grid editor. So let's take this. Let's create. We have a grid manager. We can remove this. Okay, I think it is missing some information from us, like spawn rate of different tiles, but we'll get to that. Okay, let's go to hex grid, and we don't need this since this is another editor script that goes in the editor folder. So let's create an editor folder. This is where all the editor based scripts should be set up, so they can run in the edit mode and not in the actual game. So hex grid editor. Okay. Let's import these, and we should be good to go. All right, so okay, we have some variables here: grid width, grid height, spawn rate, and we have some prefabs. So let's start with the basic tile. Let's disable the others. Okay, let's put this up there and generate grid. So we have some tile sets, but they are too far apart. If we generate another grid, they'll just be spawned on top of each other. What we want to do is reduce the spacing, so we need to have some options to customize this bit where it asks us how much spacing we want, because what we really want is to stick them close together, like something like this, and not so far apart. So let's go back to ChatGPT. Okay, great. I need an option to decide the space between two tiles, as currently they are far apart. Also, when I generate new tiles, please delete the old ones. Yeah. Okay, so now it is setting up a new variable. What would actually be great is if we can, instead of entering the values manually, if we can, kind of slide them over like a slider input. I'm not sure if that can be possible, but let's try it out. Okay, so let's copy the script back into Unity. Okay, let's delete the previous ones. Generate. So okay, this is how it looks right now. Let's bring them a little bit more closer. Let's see if that works. Generate. It didn't work. Okay, let's try to increase. That is too far apart. Let's bring it back. It is too far apart. Can we also... Actually, we can do that ourselves. So go here, public, and yeah. Next, what we want to do is we want to spawn different types of... There you go. We want to spawn different types of, how do you say, building types or elements like castles. Yeah. Okay, so what we have here is a basic level editor script. You can manipulate the width, the height of the platform that you're trying to create. You can increase the size. So if you want, let's say 20 by 20, then you have a bigger grid. So now we want to add two things to it. We want to define different tower types, so we can do that using enums, and we want to define spawn rate for each of these tower types. Great. Let's define some tower types using enums, and also define the spawn rate for these tower types. Let's also give it an example to be specific with what we mean and how we want it to be. So for example, let's go tower A, maybe 20% spawn rate. Tower B, maybe 15% spawn rate. Tower C, maybe 60% spawn rate. Rest of the area is filled with tower D. I should also be able to control values from the editor. Yeah, okay. So I think the internet went off there for a bit. So I think this is the most important part to mention, that you should always be able to control the values from the editor. So you can quickly iterate upon your execution, upon the experimentation that you're trying to do in the level, because otherwise you'll have to go into the script and manually change the values and wait for Unity to reload the scene, the scripts, and take that effect. That's always a good decision to control everything from within the scene. All right, so we asked it to define some enums and control spawn rates. Um, okay, what we have here is an enum type tower ABCD, and we have some spawn rates tower type, and we have the spawn rate here in percentage values 0 to 100. We have tower prefabs, we have spawn rate, ensure this array matches the tower type. Okay, so we have to enter it in this specific order: tower A, tower B, C, and D. Okay, let's copy this script. Let's Actually, we shouldn't copy the script. It hasn't written out all the methods for us. So let's copy the methods it has written out for us. Create. We copy the enum, we copy the class, and we should be good to go. All right, so I think the internet went off there for a bit. We are having some network problems, but it is all fixed now. So let's begin from where we left off a couple of moments ago. And we have a grid. We can control the height and the width. So we have the basic functionality set up, but we need to add some life to the grid. Instead of placing the towers manually one by one, it would be a great idea to create some methods and some functionality to spawn these through the code. We have a sheep, we have some towers, we have some walls, we have maybe like a farm, we have a cabin, but what we don't have is the script. So let's go to ChatGPT. Let's tell it what we really want. So we want to define some tower types. Let's say we want tower A, tower B, tower C, and we want to define some spawn rates for these towers. And we want to control these values from the editor. So this is the most important part of it. We want to control these values from the editor, because if we don't, we will always have to go into the code and change these values manually, come back to Unity, refresh, and see the execution. So let's see how it has responded to us. Okay, blah 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 blah. What it has outputted is a script, is a nice script, the hex grid that we were working on, but with some enum types and a tower spawn rate class. So let's copy this bit. Let's go to the script and paste it out here. To go and copy the updated variables and paste it out here. Oops. Good to go. And let's copy these two methods and paste them out here. All right. So instead of tower A, tower B, let's give them some names like sheep, like a archery, and just dirt, like the normal towers that we have. What other elements do we have? We have a house. Let's give it the name of a house, and we can also have a wall. Let's also have some walls. Let's keep. Okay. Now we need to convert these into prefabs. I already have a few prefabs: sheep, wall, wizard, dirt. Let's convert an archery. Let's convert a farm, or rather a house. Great. We can delete all of these. We need to refresh. Okay. We have some error. Return. Okay, let's just fix it by changing it to the dirt tower. So if the random range doesn't fall into the desired spawn rate, it would just spawn the dirt tower, which is like the basic uh, grid tile which we currently have on screen. And let's add some tower prefabs. So here we'll need to follow the list: sheep, archery, house, wall, and dirt. Let's go with sheep, archery, house, wall, and dirt. And spawn rate for sheep, archery, house, wall, and dirt. Okay, let's have some sheep, let's have some archery, let's have some houses, let's have some walls. Let's have some dots. And we just need to now generate the grid. So generate grid. Okay. So now instead of placing all of these manually, what we have done is we have spawned them through the script, and we can control these values. So if you want a lot of walls, we can just create a lot of walls. If you want less walls, we can create less walls. If you want a lot of sheep, maybe the villagers like a lot of sheep, and there are a lot of archers to defend the kingdom, we can have that easily. So, you can create your own level editor script using ChatGPT. It depends on the gameplay, it depends how complex your game is, how complex your level is, what your goals are with the editor script. But you can do it once you have a clear idea of what you want to achieve, once you can define the mechanics of the script, what values you want to control, how you want to implement different objects, different systems in the level. You can do it very easily and quite efficiently. So yeah, I think that was the explanation of how we can implement a level editor script in Unity.
Very nice indeed, and thanks for picking that back up. Like you mentioned, we've had some horrible internet connections here, so congrats on pulling that off. But yeah, that was very cool. I love the little assets you used on that as well. And I think, again, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself too much, but the way you're talking to this and explaining what you want is a really nice way of generating these scripts, isn't it? And obviously, it will be dependent on the game you're building, but I think there's many use cases here, um,
Yeah.
especially in sort of if you've got similar levels in your game, you could create random versions of that and then tweak them manually. I can see a really good, an acceleration in time of building levels and stuff like that. And obviously, you'd have to think about how it would work in your specific game. But yeah, that's really powerful to create something like that. And again, I'm going to ask this one, which I asked last time, to do this sort of manually from scratch. How long do you think this is sort of saving you in time, or even if not in time? How much of a nicer way of working is this for you?
So the first step is the first way that you can do this is placing all the assets manually. If you have a certain pattern in mind, maybe you want a certain number of sheep, so you can place them manually. But I think the good developers, they already create their own script, level editor script, by their own code. They write it manually, so which is already a smarter way of doing things. But to create that script in an efficient way, ChatGPT can help you. So that already boosts a smarter way of development. So it if you create your own level editor script, it could take you anywhere between 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the game, depending on the script, with testing, polishing. And I think here we were able to pull that off in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
And the
easily.
best
Yeah.
part is, yeah, we can add more layers to it, like maybe we want to rotate some of the tiles in a specific manner. Certain conditions can be applied. Maybe one sheep cannot be near another sheep. It cannot be near a village or hut. We can apply a lot of logic and uh, cases to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Like you can add, like you said, add that even more randomness to it, and of course, increase the tiles that that it's pretty limitless in terms of what you can do with that. And I think that's it's really cool. Obviously, for me as a non-coder, looking at it visually, it's a lot easier to get a really nice idea of what it's saving you in terms of time and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty powerful indeed. And again, well done for overcoming our internet. AI couldn't fix the internet for us on that one, but you did a great job coming back. I think we've got one more section to cover today. Should we dive into that one now and pray the internet keeps up for us? I'm looking forward to this one especially, which is why I'd love to get going on that. So I'll pass this back to you, and let's go and cover the final sort of section for today.
Yeah. So The final section, the final bit that I want to show in our part two series of how we can use ChatGPT to boost game development is to create some custom particle effects in Unity. These effects, for the purpose of showcasing, I will use a 2D system rather than a 3D system to get across my ideas. Hey, let's create a custom particle effect in Unity. I will use DOTween for this. DOTween is a tweening package in Unity. It is freely available. Anyone can use it. I want to use DOTween for this. And for the first example, let's try to create a small firework. It pops in the air and it does a whoosh blast. Let's create a. Now, the thing with every particle effect is you need to understand how it would work, how it begins, and how it ends. So we need to define the steps of our firework. Let's define it step by step. There is a game object. It rises in the air. After reaching a point, it explodes. As it explodes, we create many more particles, or we spawn many more particles in a circular fashion that move out. So okay, let's keep it like this. But we also need to define if we are using 2D axis, 3D axis. It is in 2D. We will use sprite renderer. Let's also define some effects that we want to have. Maybe it's a firework, so the particles, they disappear after a while. So once it goes boom, as the particles come out, they disappear as they burn. So let's define it in the second step. That move out and scale down over time, disappearing completely. It is in 2D. We will use a sprite renderer and routine. Okay. So while it defines what to do and how it can be done, let's set up the scene in Unity. Let's create a new scene. I don't want to disturb our kingdom, our sheep kingdom. Let's create a new scene. VFX custom, and let's go with orthographic view, and let's create a solid color skybox. I already have some shapes like a star, like a circular moon, and a square. So let's change it to circle. Let's call it square, and let's call it star. Give them some colors. We have them right on the screen. So okay, square and right. So we have three shapes now. Let's scale them down, or let's rather increase our camera size. Okay, and what we can do now is take a look at this data that it is generating for us. Creating a custom article. Okay. Explosion and okay, so I think what it has given us is broken into different parts. Let's ask it to write one entire script that we can just attach to our game object. Write me an entire script. Okay, while it is generating the script, let's create prefabs. So let's create a new folder and firework prefabs. Let's drag them all here, here, and here. Okay. So let's use the square as a placeholder for the firework, and let's use the circles as particles. So firework and particles. So let's remove them from here. So you can keep the firework. Okay, so we have a script ready for us. We took it firework effect. It is using DOTween and it is all the variables that we need to control the effect. Instructions for use attach the script, so it clearly defines how you want to use the script and where you want to place it in the scene, and configure the particle count. So we can tweak the values. Let's get down to it. And firework effect, we create a new script. And we just paste the code we got from ChatGPT. So all right, we have the script and we have the prefab. So particle prefab is the square of the circular object that we have, and we need to define a target position. So target position. Let's go back to the scene. So I think, okay, it's gonna look like this to center up. And I think if you press play, the fireworks should rise up into the air and do kind of an explosion. Let's test it out. Yeah. So it did explode, it did move up to the air, but we have some problems with it. Yeah, all of the particles are falling down. So let's define the problem. It works great, but the particles are falling down. They need to move outward in a circular fashion. Also, can we have a throbbing effect for the firework object? To ensure that we need to set the initial movement out, we output from the explosion point. Okay. Alright, so we also need to reduce the size for our firework. Let's reduce it down to, oh no, this looks good. And let's make it beautiful. Let's, add some trails to it. Make it look like an actual firework with some basic shapes. We add some materials. There you go. It looks much better now. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, okay, we have the script ready. So let's copy the script and get back here, paste it. We have some more variables we can modify now. Great. So we can set the scale for the throb. We reduced our scale. So, let's modify this to 0. Let's say 4. And let's hope it works. Yeah, you can see the throbbing effect. All right, so let's modify a few things. Let's make it drop quicker. Let's do this. Problem is our particle is too big, so we need to reduce the scale for this as well. Yeah, now it is moving outwards, but we need to increase the speed and the duration. So we have the variables. So explosion radius, let's increase it by 5. And let's reduce the time it takes to move out. So, we can see the effect. Let's go. We have something that is much better. Let's reduce the scale. Let's increase the radius, and let's give it some trails like we have for our firework, and trail. Oops. Where did okay. So okay, we have something that is much better than what we had initially. We need to increase the speed so they move out fairly quickly. For this, we can modify this value, particle scale down duration. So if we can just reduce this value, we'll have something that moves out in a quicker fashion. Let's, yeah. Yeah, you have like a basic firework, but it seems too simple. We can add more elements to it. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can see it better. And yeah, let's give it some multiple rounds of explosion. This is just a single round, so works great. I want multiple rounds of explosion, each using a different particle, and each expanding in the radius based on original radius. Multiple prefabs, okay. So it is using a coroutine for spawning multiple explosions. So, let's just copy the script once it's completed and we see how it goes. Yeah. So at the very core of it, these are all just mathematical calculations, nothing super complex, but if you get down to it, it's just mathematical algorithms, calculations to spawn in a circular direction, and moving them out. It's all super basic stuff, but it just takes a while to do manually. Let's do it as screen. So we just need to attach particle prefix, green, particle one. Okay. Scale down duration, base explosion radius. Yeah, you see we have multiple rounds of explosion now. So this is just something very basic that I have shown what that can be done. You can add more layers to it, you can make it more complex, you can add more conditions, add more effects using DOTween. What would be cool is to have some sort of multiple fireworks exploding together, so we can just duplicate this, add here, add it out here, and if we press play, they would all convert into one point and blast off. So let's have some separate points. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You can do so many things with it. You just have to think what kind of a effect you want to show, what kind of a algorithm you want to implement, and you can do it very easily. But I want to showcase something else to you now. So let's take a sprite, for example, a sprite of a tree. We have a basic tree. We don't need fireworks anymore. We can disable them for now. So what we have here is a basic tree, but I want to convert it into a very pixelated tree. You can take off individual pixels from the tree, make it more effective and make it more lively. So to do this, I want to create a special script. Let's create a new chat. Hey, I want to convert my 2D sprite renderer to small pixels by spawning them Unity and changing the color based on the sprite. Should also be able to control the resolution. So there's a very popular plugin, very popular effect for 3D called soft body, in which objects can be broken down and really have a jelly effect. I want to do something similar, but in a pixel format for 2D sprites. So we break it down into pixels and we can then destroy them or move them around from the tree. And you could do that with any 2D sprite. So I think that is a cool effect you can add to your games, to your 2D games. So attach the script. We have some instructions. Okay, let's copy the script. Let's add it into Unity, pixelate sprite, and we have it here. Okay, let's paste it out here, and what we have here is a very simple function that extracts the colors out of the sprites and spawns the pixels on top of it. So we need a pixel prefab. We do, yeah. Okay. So let's take the firework image, but let's call it oops, pixel, and let's change the color to pure white. We attach it here, and if we press play, let's see what happens. Okay, we have an error. So I can solve this error, but let's see how GPT does it. Just for fun. Copied the error, I pasted it here. I have some error. I did a whole I did a whole lot of debugging in our part 1 of the episode, so you can just go back to see how it is done. You can take screenshots, you can send it to ChatGPT, and it will help you debug everything very efficiently. Yeah, I think so. It knows how to debug this error, so let's just do that instead. Yeah, and apply. Should be. All right, so we have some pixels that are like really big in size. So let's reduce the resolution. Okay, I think yeah. Okay, this is a problem. Let's go back to ChatGPT. Okay, but I have a problem. Pixels are not spawning on site. Resolution is not working as expected. The pixels should be spawned on the sprite. Take the color and based on the resolution. Yeah. Couple of issues with the positioning of the pixels and resolution control. Let's address these issues step by step. Okay, let's do it. Across the updated version of the Inspire private bounds. Okay, so I think this is still an issue, the resolution bit, but let's see how this updated method works. Yeah, now we have pixels that are at least spawning in the proper position. Great. So we need to do one thing. We need to bring it ahead of the tree. Let's do this. Let's reduce the resolution to maybe 5. Yeah, we need to reduce the scale. Yeah, so I think the problem here is in the scaling of the objects. Yeah. So we can just disable the scale. Okay, what we have here is some pixels, but now they're not positioned in a proper place. So let's fix it. Let's ask ChatGPT to position them correctly. Great, but the positioning is still in. Wait, let's fix it. Okay, we have an updated method. Let's see if this works. Hopefully it should. Use the scale and let's refresh. Okay, we still have the issue. Oops. Okay. Set it too high, you might create too many game objects. So this way where it is centered. Different pivot you may need to. We need to calculate the pixel on the sprite and spawn the object on top of it. Calculate the pivots. Okay. I think this might take some back and forth conversation with ChatGPT. But Kevin, are you able to understand what we are trying to do here?
Yeah, I like just as before. I'm watching along and I'm trying to figure out what you're doing, but I really enjoy the troubleshooting process of this.
Yeah,
And I was thinking about, and the fireworks one was really cool, and we'll touch on that in just a bit. But I was thinking that's a really good way that you could, for non-developers, to communicate with their developers a little bit more in doing some tweaks here and there, um,
yeah,
to help them. If there's a way to communicate something visually, I think that would be super helpful. But yeah, for a non-coder here, it's quite difficult for me to fully keep up with you. But that's fine because I know everyone else will be understanding fully what you're doing. And again, I think it's really smart that I like it when things don't go quite to plan because that's when you really start to learn how to use these tools
yeah,
and figure out exactly how it's all meant to be working, right?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. It's a very helpful and accessible tool for non-coders. All right. So what we have here is a smaller version of the tree that we were expecting to output, and it's all pixelated. So you can see they're all like pixels, and you can move them around. So a very nice effect. But let's try to scale it up. Let's try to mess with the resolution now. Let's go maybe 256. It is still quite small, but I think it is a very, yeah, it is a very high resolution tree now, which has too many pixels. Let's increase the scale and reduce the pixels, and yeah. Yeah, so what we have here, a pixelated version of the tree, but to make it even cooler, what we can do is we can add some physics to the tree. Let's. All right, so I think we have the basic functionality setup where we are spawning pixels within the tree. What I would like to do is add some physics to the pixels so it just looks cool. And we have added a box collider and a rigid body. So when the pixels are spawned, they droop down. Let's add a platform at the bottom so we can catch the pixels. I have a simple ground image out here. We can scale it up. We can give it a box collider. Let's drag the tree up there. And yeah, okay, so we can do this. We can go there and we can zoom in the camera. So zoom in. Oops, I think let's do that, but yeah. Great. So let's disable the sprite renderer and for the tree, not for the ground. And what we should have is a pixelated tree. Well, we do have that, but it is very off location. Scale it up and okay. Yeah, it is quite off location. We can just move the it is due to the collision. And let's take the tree and let's set it up there. And let's just move the ground down here. Let's take the camera. Okay. Yeah. You can see we have a nice pixelated tree. So this is how originally the tree looked like down here. And we can increase the resolution. It is starting to lag because we have so many pixels on it, but you get the idea. You get the point that we can we can create some nice effects by converting a sprite into pixels. We can do all sorts of calculations on top of it. We can ask ChatGPT to create these systems for us, these calculations, these methods, these algorithms, whatever you want to call it. It can do that quite easily for us. So, Kevin, I think that is what I wanted to showcase, these two effects of the tree, of the pixelation of sprites, and the firework effect.
Very cool indeed. Yeah. Like I said, thank you again for battling with our internet. The internet gods are definitely against us here, so it might have jumped around a little bit there as we reconnected and stuff. But yeah, I think you showed off. It's amazing going from that one sprite into what it ended up with. That's quite incredible, and I think um, your methods behind it all and the back and forth, like I said a few times, is really quite fascinating to watch when for a non-coder especially to see what you can do with this. And I mentioned it really briefly, but I think if you're a visual person working with a developer, I can see with the use of that especially could be quite a good way to tweak around with things to get the desired sort of look that you're after without having to be overly technical. So I think that's one aspect that I think could be really, really well sort of utilized in the future going forward. So Yeah, I really appreciate that, and again, we've had some struggles here, so I really do appreciate your patience with this and all the information you shared today. We really did cover a huge amount of ground again today. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be once we chop it all up and put it all together nicely on this week. But overall, thank you so much indeed. I mean, I'm not sure what else I can say. I'd love to get you back on again for some more tips and tricks, because I think it's really, really interesting, and I know a lot of people are going to get so much value from this. But last time I asked you for some nuggets on top tips and stuff like that. I'm going to do the same again now. What do you think, as we sort of concentrate more on the visual stuff today, what do you think has been the best time saver for you overall in all of these sort of different areas that you've touched on today? What do you use the most, and what do you think is most beneficial?
So I think I use the asset generation the most to fill up the empty gaps within my game. As you mentioned, to beautify the loading screens, to add some flavor to the game and not make it look so bland. Because you can easily generate so many icons, so many assets. And I got inspired by a few Japanese games. They really detailed their game with cute characters, cute animals, cute texts, and so many things. And I think that increases the quality of your game for your players. They like to look at the details. They like to see, okay, this developer has put some effort into the game. Maybe they stick around for a while, but from your end, you can maximize the quality output for your games that way.
Yeah, for sure. And let's not forget the level editor there as well, because I really enjoyed watching that one, and I can see a great use case for sort of um, speeding up the way that you can create these level editors. And again, I'm going to put it back to working from a visual to the coder and the back and forth there. Level editors and stuff like that are really powerful to let the designers really, get going on these sort of projects. So I think that could be a really great use case for that. I really enjoyed that one because I really like the assets in that as well. It's right on my street, the low poly stuff. But yeah, so Anil, with that said and done, before the internet blows up on us again, I think I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so, so much for agreeing to come on twice now for
No
us. I'd
worries.
love to invite you
Thank
back
you.
on. Um,
Thank you. Thank you so much
what
for hosting me.
no,
Thank
the
you for.
the pleasure has been all mine. One thing I forgot to do, and I won't forget this time, if people want to reach out and say thank you, or where is the best place to get hold of you so people can say thanks and maybe get more information on all the stuff that you shared with us today.
So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am always available on LinkedIn. And the link would be mentioned in the description below. I'm always happy to help meet with new game developers, help you out in any way I could. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for staying here with us. And I hope you guys learned something and you can use this to apply in your game development process.
Absolutely fantastic, and no doubt, yeah, you provided so much value. So, with that said and done, that's going to go and wrap it up for us today. Thank you, everybody. Leave a like on your way out, as always, and we'll see you next time around. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye bye.